All right, so 3, 2 is all the log stuff. We started with evaluating a function. So number one, basically you're saying like what power do I have to raise? 6, 2 to get to 36. And the answer there is what? 2. Good. Then 2 says 2 times ln of 1 over e to the 5th. So this one's kind of trickier because you got to do some work before you can get there. But if I brought e to the top here, what would that do to my exponent? It makes it -5, right? And then what happens when ln and e are next to each other? They cancel out, and the answer would be the exponent on whatever e is, because that's the same thing as saying log base e of e, right? So this just becomes 2 times -5, and that becomes -10. Questions on either of those before we get to the graphs? So there will be a good amount of questions that are like that. We're like quick mental math on the quiz for tomorrow. And then obviously you get your graphing too. So with number 2, it said, well, that should be a 3. Number 3, okay, it says identify the domain, the range, the asymptote, and the x-intercept and graph the function. So the first thing we want to do is take our log function and look for a horizontal shift because that causes our vertical asymptote to shift, right? If I set this equal to 0, I get x equals -4, and then that's the answer to my vertical asymptote. And it's where I'm going to put a dashed, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put a dashed vertical line. Then I take that function and I'm going to rewrite it. So I get y equals log base 5 of x plus 4. I'm going to have the 5 pick up the y. So 5 to the y would equal x plus 4. And then I get 5 to the y minus 4 equals x. And then I want to plug in for y. So I'd get 5 to the -1 minus 4, 5 to the 0 minus 4, and 5 to the first minus 4. And I get 1/5 minus 4, which is -3 and 4/5. I get 1 minus 4, which is -3, and I get 5 minus 4, which is 1. So -3 and 4/5, -3 and 1. Go to your x or to your graph. -3 and 4/5, -1. -3, 0, and 1, 1. And I know this line hugs the vertical asymptote, and I put arrows on both sides. And then the last piece of information it needs is your domain, your range, and your x-intercept. So what's the domain here? It starts where? What's the furthest left? -4. And it can't include it, so it gets a parentheses. Good. And then your range? All real numbers. It's going to be a question on your quiz. You might as well get it right. And then your x-intercept, you can either read it from your graph or you can go to your t-chart. And it's the middle one if you've done it in the same order, which is -3, 0. Questions? All right, so let's go through. If you have no question on the homework, you can open up the quiz review. But for those of you that had questions on the homework, I'm going to go over them. All right, so this is 11, and 11 is y equals log base 5 of x minus 2. So I'm going to set it equal to 0 to get my vertical asymptote, which x equals 2. So I know I've got a vertical asymptote through 2. Then I'm going to convert it. So 5 would pick up, 5 picks up the y. I get x minus 2. 5 to the y plus 2 equals x. And then I plug in for y. So -1, 0, and 1. I get 5 to the -1 plus 2. 5 to the 0 plus 2, and 5 to the first plus 2. So 1/5 plus 2 is 2 and 1/5. 1 plus 2 is 3. And 5 plus 2 is 7. So then I'm going to go to my graph, and I go 2 and 1/5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 and 1/5, -1. 3, 0, 7, 1. So it was multiple choice, but obviously you needed to draw it so that you know which one to pick. My vertical asymptote, I already got x equals 2. My y-intercept or x-intercept is 3, 0. And the domain goes from 2 to positive infinity with a parentheses on the 2 because it starts at the asymptote but then moves right. This is 18. So 18 was your ln. So you will not have to graph an ln on tomorrow's quiz because you won't have a calculator, okay? But this is something that could come back at the end. It could ask you characteristics of the graph, but not the exact points. And then this is something that could come back on your test, which is next week. So I could say that ln is the same thing as log base e. So I would say y equals log base e of x plus 5. My vertical asymptote is x equals -5. That you could get asked without a calculator, okay? And then e to the y equals x plus 5, and e to the y minus 5 equals x. And then I plug in for y. So e to the -1 minus 5, e to the 0 minus 5, and e to the first minus 5. This one I need a calculator for, but this is 1 minus 5, which is -4. This is 2.7 minus 5, which is 2.3. Negative 2.3. And then the other one. Negative 4.6. So then when you go to graph it, you've got a vertical asymptote at -5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 4.6, -1, -4, 0, and negative 2.3, 1. So my domain, -5 to positive infinity because it starts at the vertical asymptote and goes to the right. And x-intercept, -4, 0. Yep. Yeah. Okay, I'm going there. I think that's next, actually. Nope, yeah, 10. So 10 had you graph the f of x equals 7 to the x, and also, well, the base on this one was 7. And then log base 7 of x. So the 7 to the x, we would do -1, 0, and 1 into the x. So you get 7 to the -1. You get 7 to the 0 and 7 to the first. So 1/7, 1, and 7. So that graph would be -1, 1/7, 0, 1, and 1, 7. That would be the parent function of 7 to the x. So then the benefit of this is they are inverses of each other. If I graphed one, then I literally just have to reverse these points to get the other one. It'd be 1/7, 1, and 7 with -1, 0, and 1. So then 1/7, -1, 1, 0, and 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And it looks like that, which was what, the second one here. Yep. Oh, that's your y equals x line. That's just what they would be. So if they're inverses, they reflect over the y equals x line. That's just showing that they have symmetry over it. Okay, and then 12. Okay, couple of things on this one. There's a vertical shift, which we haven't had yet today. I mean, we had it on Friday or whatever. And the negative in front of the log, which also flips it upside down. So if I set this equal to 0, my vertical asymptote is still at 0. There's no horizontal shift. But then to get it to be exponential, log 2x, first thing I have to do is move that 1. So I'd get y minus 1 equals negative log base 2 of x. Then I have to get rid of the negative on the front. So I multiply by -1 and I get negative y plus 1 equals log base 2 of x. Now that 2 picks up that whole exponent, negative y plus 1. And now I plug in for y. So I get 2 to the -1 plus 1, 2 to the -0 plus 1, and 2 to the -1 plus 1. So this becomes 2 to the second, which is 4. This becomes 2 to the first, which is 2. And this becomes 2 to the 0, which is 1. So then I have a coordinate point at 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, 2, 0, and 1, 1. And I know it's upside down, which matches my graph. And then domain still goes from the vertical asymptote to positive infinity, and the x-intercept is 2, 0, 2, 0. Yeah. So I've got 1/7 times log base 7 of 49. So the first thing I would do is look at the log expression. Log base 7 of 49 is what? 2. 7 to what power gives you 49? That's 2. So it'd be 1/7 times 2, and that's 2/7. On one of them, like you could then simplify it. I forget if it was like 6 or something, but you could simplify it. Obviously, if you could simplify it, you need to. Everybody else is good on homework? Yeah. Okay. So quiz is